So I get back in and she looks at the gas tank and she says, "Oh, you filled up. That's unusual for you." And I said, "At 259, I'll carry the extra weight." So
Yeah, I can afford the extra weight. You're out of your
exactly.
mind.
You're out of your mind.
This is the guy who is
Your
figuring out how to get
economic
helpful.
scale
He's
is
thinking of all angles.
I
No
think he
stone
just,
is left
I think what
unturned
he
when he's
does
in his
is,
sour thinking.
I think in reality, what he's doing is he's making himself have to stop at the gas station more frequently.
I'm just
Get a
wondering where
slushie.
Hey there, everyone. Jamie was Sell for 1%, joined as
Hello,
usual by the gang. Head broker Dave Barlow, Jaysen Barlow, and my brother and real estate professional Rich Cercone with Equitable Mortgage here to talk about interest rates and the greater real estate market. Rich, what do you see with interest rates? I know last week they were tamping down a little bit.
Yeah, we've been into the 4th of July lull. We're getting into the dog days of summer, if you will. So there's not a lot of news. The employment number last week was pretty much as expected, and we're holding for the CPI number, which will be next week. And of course, the Fed meets at the end of the month. There's a lot of things to come here still in July, but right now we're in a holding pattern, and we've seen the 10-year Treasury bond, which last week, as you mentioned, that we were trending down. The 10-year Treasury was in the 424 range last week, and we're up to 444 this week. So we've moved up on the Treasuries, which is usually corresponding to a move up in interest rates. In street level, we're not really seeing a whole lot of difference in interest rates right now. Still like the mid sixes to 7%. Again, depending on the mix of credit scores and loan to value and loan amount and all of those things. So it's like a quiet time, and everything's just flowing evenly right now. I don't see any major upheavals. I think that the Fed meeting could be interesting to see what Jay Powell does in response to President Trump's vehement insistence on lowering interest rates. So we'll wait and see what happens. And of course, next week, the inflation numbers could be important as well.
I think that Jay Powell will probably raise interest rates just to have some fun.
It seems Trump has a new nickname for Jay Powell and just calling him too late. But I guess it's never too late to kick the can further down and have the secret tax of inflation take us all down eventually. But
Oh boy, the doom and gloom from Jay Marinsky. Oh boy,
sorry, I woke up on the
sleep-
wrong side of the cabin this morning.
Yeah, that's what the sleep deprivation does to you, doesn't it?
I just print $5 trillion out. We'll take that inflation on that invisible tax. We'll take it right on.
Ah boy,
Nothing. Print.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I thought that the employment numbers that came out, Rich, were better than expected.
Yeah, but they weren't knocking out of the ballpark kind of numbers. They
No.
were just there's going to be fluctuations a little bit. So we're just hanging in there with rates staying about in the same range. And for the people out there that are listening, wondering what your mortgage rates, that's the most important thing, not what the employment number, all that other stuff. They're pretty much staying the same. You might get 6.5 or 6.375 on a really perfect loan, but typically you're going to get around 6.75, 6.875, 6.625. Those are the ranges that we're seeing on the 30-year fixed conventional right now.
But what I wanted to say that the government jobs had a big increase, and that what I was reading was that's what is going to kill any chance of dropping rates this month, and that now it's becoming next month. They'll look at it. The inflation's at 1%, and so typically the Fed would be saying, "Oh, it's deflation," and deflation has been the devil since the Fed became a thing, and that was always the excuse to lower rates. But there's some kind of weird political battle going on between Trump and Powell, and so Powell's not going to acquiesce here. Typically, deflation is what they freak out the most about, and 1% lower than
the government jobs, interesting, because we know there's been a lot of cuts in the federal workforce, but they did, what happened is that the state and local jobs were higher than expected, and they pointed to the idea that the feds are laying off, so we need more people locally. I don't know whether that's true. I don't see how that happens that quickly, but at least that's the word that came out of that report. But you're right, the government jobs are a little bit higher than expected.
Yeah, and so then they're going to say, "Oh, the labor market's doing good, and we're not going to mess with rates." It's very interesting to watch all of the dynamics, and they're basically fighting over tariffs, which have had no impact on anything yet.
Yeah. And remember that I keep preaching that they can lower rates, and rates for mortgages could go up depending on what the
right.
market feels the long-term outlook is. If they're not buying the fact that there's going to be a long-term move towards lower interest rates, it's not going to react to that. And also, I brought up a number of times on this forum, quantitative easing was the reason that we saw rates going down as much as we did and staying down throughout the 2010s and into the early 2020s. I don't see any talk at all of quantitative easing, which for anybody who's not watched before, that is where the Fed actually buys their own product. They buy mortgage-backed securities. They buy the Treasury bills from themselves to create more demand.
So would it be akin to a corporation buying back their own stock?
I guess in some ways, yeah, because when you buy your own stock, the price of the stock goes down typically. I don't know that it has an exact correlation. They were issuing all these treasury bonds. They didn't feel like they had enough buyers out there, so they were buying them back from themselves throughout the 2010s, actually,
Right.
from coming out of the foreclosure crisis up until about 2 years ago. They were doing quantitative easing. That kept rates really low, more so than, okay, this month we're lowering, this month we're not. It was more the quantitative easing, which was continuing that steadiness to the mortgage rates.
As you mentioned, the rates have not moved in what, 6 months, 7 months?
Pretty much, yeah. We've been in this range for really a long time, 6.5 to low sevens. We haven't really varied from that for a long
That is
time.
an interesting thing to bring up. It has been in this range for a very long time.
Yeah.
They haven't moved the Fed rate since September. Is that when they moved rates right before the election? And then it's been kind of status quo. But interesting, what you're talking about just a few moments ago, Rich, is that they were up into the low sevens. And I think you mentioned a week or two ago that you've seen rates drifting lower in spite of the Fed not lowering rates.
And that happens as well. And again, typically that is where you see numbers that come out or sentiment come out that leads the market to believe that in the future they will lower rates. There's something on the horizon that's going to lead to them lowering at some point in the future as opposed to raising. And I think what's caused that is as Jaysen mentioned earlier, the tariffs have not had the inflationary effect that people thought, and Trump has backed off on some of those numbers. I'm going to do 100% tariff. Now it's 25. So he's backed off on some of that. The tariffs have had less effect, and the inflation numbers are also lower than what people had thought. And the jobs numbers are still strong. So we've got a strong job market. We've got a market where prices are coming down. So it is an environment where people can foresee somewhere out there on the horizon that the Fed will start to lower rates. And that causes mortgage rates to drift down as opposed to the opposite. If they think they're going to be raising rates, they start to drift up.
So my old gasoline monitor over the weekend, I got gas for $2.59 a gallon. And I was shocked.
Where?
At the Sheets, at Sawmill, and Seldom Seen. And it was also the same price at the Giant Eagle there at the Sawmill and Powell Road. And And then I was paying attention as I was driving around on the weekend doing appointments. And about the highest I saw was 279. Now,
Yeah.
it looks like they have popped back up in closer to 3 since the weekend, but I was like, wow, that's crazy.
And that's unusual. 4th of July weekend
Yeah.
usually is there's more demand and prices go up on
People are
gas.
traveling. Let's hike these prices up.
Yep.
Yeah, typically that's what they do.
That's all supply and demand. But I was, like I say, I was like, okay, I'm pulling in. And normally, and this is my own theory, normally I only get 3/4 of a tank. I don't ever fill up. And I don't ever, at least I try not to anymore.
That would be some Shaquille O'Neal math here.
Yeah. Dude, 0. Well, the idea being is that, the heavier your car is, lugging around a full tank of gas, the less your gas mileage.
So that
I-
is some analytics there.
Yeah. So it makes sense to me.
Dave always fast before he drives.
So-
I always make sure I haven't eaten a big meal before I drive, so that the car is not too heavy.
You purge before you drive. Get rid of that
Exactly.
excess weight. And so I had mom in the car with me, and so I get back in, and she looks at the gas tank, and she says, "Oh, you filled up. That's unusual for you." And I said, "At 259, I'll carry the extra weight." So
Yeah, I can afford the extra weight. You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind.
This is the guy who is
Your economic scale
He's
is
thinking of all angles.
I
No
think he
stone
just-
is
I think-
left
I think what he
unturned when
does
he's in his
is-
sour thinking.
I think in reality, what he's doing is he's making himself have to stop at the gas station more frequently.
I'm just wondering where the
slushie.
balance.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah,
this,
get a roller hot
use this
dog.
speed day points.
Get him some of those roller hot dogs and a slushie.
I've done
more
that
often.
before, and he has noticed that I've used his points for a slushie before. Like, hey, here's
I have,
using
like-
my points.
got like 300,000 points. And
I need to know, is it like 5 ace full? That's the perfect amount where there's no.
I go 3/4.
or-
I go 3/4
Okay.
because I have a 24-gallon tank. And so it's easy for me just to do the math. If I'm at a quarter tank, that means I have about 6 gallons left. So I put 12 gallons in. That gives me 3/4 of a tank. Yeah, it's just
So,
it's a whole
so
calculation.
have you
thing.
noticed that your gas mileage is better, or is this just a theory that you have? Have you actually tracked this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got an app on my phone and the whole I write down my mileage, how many gallons I got. I do the whole thing. I have a lot of time on my hands, Rich, when I'm driving around. So it's my think
Yeah,
time.
you do a lot of driving. I understand.
So, anyways, that's why the gas monitor for me is a very good barometer of where the economy is. And at 259 a gallon, I think there were a lot of happy people on the 4th of July weekend traveling. Jay, you went up to that state up north. What did you see for gas prices?
Well, I don't buy gas when I go to Michigan. I push
Oh,
my
okay.
car. So
Woody
I
Hayes.
do the whole Woody Hayes, and
There you
I don't
go.
spend any money up there if I can help.
You buy it, it's a state line, and
There you go.
and that's it.
There you go.
Yeah, gas. I had a client right before I left that made a comment to me that the Giant Eagle, we were like leaving a walkthrough, and I thought it was cool. Like one of the things I like, I prefer to deal with sellers because you can get more done in less time. And also it's for me, it's a new mousetrap. I came up in the business doing buyers only, and so I've enjoyed learning the seller side of thing the last 10 years and figuring that out. But I'm out with a couple buyers right now. And the cool part with the buyers is you build relationships with them because you're out looking at 10, 15, 20 houses and spending more time together. And so I thought it was cool because we're leaving and he like jumps out of his car. Hey, Jaysen, by the way, the Giant Eagle down the street, gas is $2.42. He's, I don't know what's going on down there, but you may want to go fill up. And it made me laugh. I built a friendship with this guy over the course of a few months. But so when you're talking about gas prices, he brought it up that it was $2.40, and that was like July 1st, maybe July 2nd. When we went out of town, to be honest, we filled up somewhere in Michigan, and I don't remember looking at the price. It was under $3, but I don't remember what the price was. I'm not like you. I fill up all the way. I don't care how much it costs, and I'm just happy to be alive. I prefer not to look at my bank account and just remain happy.
I leave my wife home to get less weight in the car, and that,
Yeah.
and then I just fill up.
I threw the kids out to get less weight in the car.
Jenny Sacramone couldn't fit in there.
I figured that it's cheaper for me to get her an Uber than to drag her around in my car.
Boy, we're in trouble after this video.
It's one of the reasons I've been married so long. We drive separately.
Let's see what GPT thinks about your theory here.
Here's the whole thing is that, and I humor myself because I've told you guys before, I drive around with no radio on, no nothing. It's my think time. And you sit there and you think about it. I drive 20 miles out of my way to save 10 cents a gallon.
Yeah, that makes 0 sense.
It's $1.80 I save on the 18 gallons.
Yeah, it's like
And
barely.
So, Dave, on all these theories that you have you
sometimes
determined
better
whether
off
it's
just to
better?
go.
Have you determined, Dave, whether it's better to run in the rain or to just walk because you get less raindrops that hit you when you walk?
Mythbusters says it's better to walk in the rain.
Walk, okay.
You absorb. They did a whole show about walking in the rain, and they had mesh suits on, and they walked and they ran in the same amount of rainfall. And they found that if you run, then the water actually gets on the front of your body because you're running into the water. And so you actually take on more water when you run.
Yeah, I do find myself walking in the rain because of that episode while everybody else is running around me.
Exactly.
Like,
I run backwards is what I do.
There you go. There you go. So only your backside gets wet. So.
I park
All
close
right.
to the door at Kroger, so I don't have to worry about getting wet when I walk.
Yeah. In the pickup area. I got caught the other day. I was at the Giant Eagle there at the Sawmill and Powell Road. Walked in to get some food for me and Mom, a couple steaks. And this was on Monday. Walked in. It was cloudy. It's like, all right, I'm get in, get out. I was only in there like 3 minutes. I come back to the door. It's raining cats and dogs. It was just a downpour. And there was a lady standing there, and she struck up a conversation. She goes, I don't know if this is terrible not to admit, but I don't know where I parked. And she said, I don't want to be wandering around the parking lot getting soaked. I said, I can see your point. I said, my problem is that I like to try to get a little exercise, and it's very little exercise, but I park way out. And so I'm out at the end of the parking lot, unlike you, Rich. I parked at the opposite end.
That's why you're so svelte compared to me.
Yeah. So I stood there for a few minutes. It's got to be breaking up. I'm trying to analyze the styles of my old coaching eyeball. And it's like, I'm going to break up here a little bit. It just got heavier. And it's like, okay, I got to go. So off I went. I walked to my car because
Sauntered off to your car.
Yep. So all good stuff. All right, fellas, very entertaining here this morning. Rich, we'll look at the interest rates. We'll talk next week. Jay DeBomb, glad you're back home. Jay Marinsky, glad you're back home.
Thank you.
The big camp out. Jay DeBomb spending money in Michigan. Grandpa, both of your grandpas would be very disappointed, but
No, I was down near Jackson.
not talking about
Meigs
you.
County.
Talking about
talking
Jaysen.
about me in Michigan, you jabroni.
All right, Jamie, wrap us up.
Did you get a veal?
I did not get a Jacksonville. I was in Meigs County, so it wasn't the same. If you guys like this content, we'll be back next week to monitor the situation. We have Rich. He'll continue to monitor the situation as he is and keep you guys updated with any news. We'll see what Jerome Powell and Trump, the new episode of that drama next week. Join us, will you please? Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
If you guys like this content, we have a good psychiatrist that you probably should see.